In my earlier statement, I did paint the picture of where we are as a continent. I mean, the power of industrialization that has been premised on fossil fuels.
President Ruto has been forced to call for an urgent parliamentary leadership meeting at State House Nairobi after Raila gave him of fresh demands with a period of only 7 days, of which if he fails to meet the Azimio demands, protests will resume immediately. In a statement through State House Facebook wall, President Ruto says this, and I quote, "We have asked the parliamentary leadership of both houses to consider our proposal for a bipartisan approach to addressing the matters raised by the opposition as a priority. We are convinced the issues shall be conclusively handled by Parliament in order to allow us focus on our economic transformation program." Present leaders of Parliament were led by National Assembly Leader of Majority Kimani Ichung'wah and his Senate counterpart Aaron Cheruiyot, and are to establish a framework for the bipartisan strategy. End of quote. This comes a day after both President Ruto and Azimio leader Raila Odinga spoke to the nation, forcing Raila to call off the nationwide protest. On his side, President's speech read as follows, and I quote, "In the last 2 weeks, our country has experienced grave acts of lawlessness, widespread violence, looting and invasion of private property by persons taking advantage of political demonstrations called by the opposition. During this period, lives have been lost, people injured, property looted or destroyed, the economy has suffered, and our image as a nation dented. Our security agencies have endeavored to do everything within the law to protect the lives and property of all citizens. Nevertheless, the violence, chaos, and disorder continues to distract our national focus of economic transformation. 3 Kenyans, among them a police officer, have lost their lives in the protest. More than 400 Kenyans, including at least 60 security officers, have been injured. A police vehicle was burnt to ashes, while another was hijacked and commanded by unruly protesters. 2 houses of worship were burnt down, kiosks, supermarkets, and mortuaries were looted. Fellow Kenyans, our country's image and history in the League of Modern Nations has been at stake in the last 2 weeks. The country's economy has been hard hit. At a time when my administration is doing everything possible to salvage the economy from the deep hole it was in, my administration has instituted solid measures and policies to attract investors and through their investment create opportunities for millions of young people to realize their potential. We cannot allow these efforts to be derailed by acts of violence, chaos, and anarchy. Fellow Kenyans, we all have an obligation to respect the Constitution of Kenya. This also includes respect of the institution established and created by the Constitution. Our country's electoral system and process is anchored on the principles of this Constitution. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IEBC) conducted a free, fair, and transparent general election on 9th August 2022, a poll that was observed by different organizations, local and foreign. The Commission declared the results of all the 6 elections conducted, and in contestants who were aggrieved by the outcome had the opportunity to present their grievances to the country's judicial system for arbitration. The Supreme Court of Kenya had determined with the finality the 2022 presidential election dispute, ruled on the petition that were filed by the aggrieved contestant and their supporters. Nevertheless, I have carefully listened to the issues raised by my friend Right Honorable Raila Odinga. In times like this, it is not about who is right or who is wrong. Like Winston Churchill said, I dare say that courage is what it takes to stand up and speak, but it is also what it takes to sit down and listen. I have always been ready to engage Kenyans of all walks of life, including elected and appointed leaders from across the political divide and the religious fraternity, on how to make our country better and more prosperous. My door still remains open for honest, objective, and sincere deliberation based on the rule of law and the Constitution. Ladies and gentlemen, on the reconstitution of the future Electoral Commission, the selection panel that is currently in office is a creation of the law that was passed by the 2 chambers of Parliament in response to a court decision. The court clearly stated that one institution, in this case Parliament, cannot dominate the process of establishing an Electoral Commission at the expense of other institutions that have a role to play in the country's electoral process. However, considering the matters raised on this particular subject, I suggest a bipartisan engagement in Parliament on the reconstitution of the IBC panel within the parameters of the law and the Constitution. In any case, as a Democrat and guided by the Constitution, I, on the 9th December 2022, sent a memorandum to Speakers of the National Assembly and Senate requesting for purposive intervention on the implementation of the 2/3 gender rule, entrenchment in the Constitution of the Constituency Development Fund (CDF), Senate oversight and National Gender Affirmative Action Funds, establishment of the position of the leaders of official opposition, and the improvement of parliamentary oversight of the executive. The IEBC selection panel and the future process of recruitment of its commissioners could as well be part of a conversation leading to constitutionally and legally binding proposals through a bipartisan parliamentary process. In these circumstances, and in the view of the recent events that led to loss of lives and destruction of property, I urge Honorable Raila Odinga to call off any other further demonstrations. Meanwhile, I call on all Kenyans to remain peaceful and law-abiding. I assure you that the government will continue with its sacred duty of protecting lives and property. End of the speech.
Is available to us in a sustainable manner, the better for all of us as humanity. The sooner we get ourselves there, the better. As a continent, we want to have a conversation that is balanced. Even as we demand for a fair international financial system, Africa will be coming to the table with our assets. We will not be coming to the table in any other manner. We will come to the table with our assets. We have tremendous renewable energy resources that can power green industrialization, green sustainable agriculture. We will be coming to the table with millions of enthusiastic, hardworking, innovative, creative young people. We will be coming to the table with our natural and mineral resources that can be used for green technology to power the world's future. We will be coming to the table with a huge 3 billion African market. So we will be coming with assets. And I think, good people, we must make our case unapologetically so that we can occupy our place on the table. Because I am told, if you are not on the table, you possibly could be in the menu. The commitment by the people of Kenya goes further and deeper. When we enacted a new constitution in 2010, we placed the environment at the foundation of our normative and institutional architecture. The 4th paragraph of our Constitution's preamble states that our respect for the environment and determination to sustain it was one of the motivating premises in enacting our Constitution. Article 42 entrenches a clean and healthy environment as a fundamental human right, while Article 67 and 70 set out the framework for the enforcement of environmental rights and obligations. Once we enter the domain of rights and obligations, the respective mandates of the 3 arms of government automatically follow. Article 21, the state is required as a fundamental duty to take legislative, policy, and other measures required to actualize these rights. Because of the centrality of land in economic and social and cultural and environmental discourse, the Constitution institutes a robust framework for land and environmental governance with a dedicated constitutional commission and the consequential establishment of the Land and Environment Division of the High Court. The Court adjudicates matters related to land, including natural resources and environmental sustainability. As a matter of national policy, Kenya has been involved in environmental diplomacy since the early years of our republic. At the famous Stockholm Conference in 1972, my predecessor and all of us, we impressed on the United Nations for the need to have a dedicated multilateral environmental agency and lobbied to host it in Africa. As a result, the headquarters of the United Nations Environmental Programme, UNEP, is based here in Nairobi. It means it remains the only UN global headquarters in the global south. And for your information, the largest. In 1992, Kenya called the world's attention to the emerging threat of depletion of the ozone layer by toxic emissions and to the buildup of greenhouse gas emissions, which posed dangerous consequences on life on Earth. Today, we remain strongly committed to our national tradition of championing ecological responsibility throughout the world, but starting here at home. In 2016, Parliament enacted the Climate Change Act, providing us the institutional framework to anchor the national response to climate change. It also legislated the Environmental Management and Coordination Act, which sets out the principles, standards, and procedures for the sustainable use, conservation, and management of the environment and all our natural resources. In December last year, I launched a national tree planting drive. The Forest and Rangeland Restoration Initiative aims to grow 15 billion trees by the year 2030,